Hello. This week on Got Clutter, Get Organized, a Conversation, it is all about organizing our health information. So this week I have got the creator of the My Body Passport. I actually have both versions, the Adventure, which is the smaller version I take with me actually every day. And this is the version that has all of my information when I have my conversations with my healthcare providers or my healthcare team. And we're going to be talking about the importance of not only organizing our health information, but the health information of those that we care for and love. So this week, get ready for my conversation with Dr. Wendy Coulson. Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, a conversation. As I shared with you, I'm excited because I am here with Dr. Wendy Coulson, and we're going to talk about the My Body Passport and the importance of having our health information organized. Dr. Wendy, thank you so much for returning. It is always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Janet. Absolutely.
So, before we get into the reasons why and also how people can use your product, really what made you decide to create the My Body Passport?
Yeah, so one of the several things happened, one of which was a friend of mine was headed to the emergency room, gave me a phone call on the way, said, Wendy, can you meet me there? No problem. I get there. By the time I get there, he's on morphine and not really thinking clearly. And the people came in with their little cart and said, hey, could you fill out these forms? So I'm sitting down with them, name, okay, address, okay. And then it got really muddy and really murky, and health details, health history, family history. I couldn't answer any of it. And I was like, this must happen a lot. This doesn't make any sense. Like, if they need all this information and we're in a non standard situation and we don't have it. So that got me thinking. And then I had an aunt who had multiple doctors, and I was close enough with her in proximity that I could kind of be the caregiver slash advocate at some of the when she was in the hospital or the different doctors. And I was taking notes on a notepad, but I'm like, how does a family keep track of all this? And it used to be in a hospital back in the day
Hmm.
that each doctor that went in would grab the chart, write their notes. The next doctor would come in, read the notes, and then be able to know what the prior doctor had had to say. So the lung doctor would know what the heart doctor was seeing, etc. Now they go and they fill in these electronic forms, and later that day, it all comes together. So I actually ended up being the connector a few times. And again, I was like, this doesn't, we need to be able to have access to our own information about our own bodies. And then that way, that's what this one is, a larger one. That way, if anything happens to me, my children can grab this, go to the doctor, and be like, yep, well, mom was doing this on this day and this on this day, and she saw this doctor, and this is what happened. And no, she doesn't need that because
Hmm.
she just had it last year, et cetera, et cetera. And so the impetus was that it's our bodies, it's numbers about our bodies, it's records about our bodies, and we should have
Yeah.
access and ability to share that as we desire.
And
Yeah.
you know what, as you were saying, one of the questions, well, actually, it's a couple questions, and you already touched on it. What is the impact of us really having all of our stuff in one location? Because, you know, and we've discussed this. You've got the portal over here for this doctor, and you've got the
Yeah.
portal over here for this doctor. And I know for me, it makes me feel a little bit more empowered of my own health
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then when they start asking questions, because sometimes I'm just going to the doctor for my annual. So then they're asking you all these questions, and of course, a year
Right.
has gone by, and so what I do, Wendy, is I'm on the table or whatever, and I'm going through, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I have this there, and I really love this. I'm actually just opened up to a page where it just has everything. When I had my pap smear, my mammogram, my colonoscopy, and I've got all my little dates, things checked off, and you know. But one of the things before you answer that question is for me, I realized when my doctor was having a conversation about my weight, which I could not understand. I'm like, why is she having a conversation about my weight? But because I had everything written down, I realized her concern as to why certain things like my blood pressure was getting high.
Right.
So, but
Yes.
some of the people who've used the product or even you, your family, what does it mean to really have everything organized and you are in control?
Well, I'll give you an example of today. So, right after this, I'm going to my dentist. So, preparation to talk with you, I pull my body passport off my refrigerator, turn around, and open up to my dental. So, you can see my teeth here somehow. And lo and behold, I had put a note that today I had agreed to get bite wing x rays. And I am not a strong proponent of constant x-rays. So I'm like, I push it down the road. I'm like, no, 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 no. But I saw this and I'm like, note to self, I'm going to go in. I already agreed. They're going to offer bite wing. I'm going to say yes. We already talked about it. Peace. Move on. And I was like, what a relief, because otherwise I would have said, well, when did I have my last bite wing? And I do have it here. It was a year and a half or 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. So just that real, like this morning, the lack of confusion
Mm,
and the clarity that I already told myself you're going to get a bite wing
mhm,
today. And so that's just a little snippet into the listeners who aren't familiar, the larger My Body Passport, it has a place for your blood tests, as Janet was saying. It has locations for your eyes and your allergies and your medications and your supplements and just basically your whole body. And then also things that you want to keep track of. So there's a spot for special stuff. So it's really meant to be your go-to to keep track. And then as I experienced personally this morning, I'm like, peace, peace, go get my bite wings. No big deal. No argument.
and you're right, it just helps you keep track of things because then when a doctor wants to say, "Well, I wanna do this test," you'll be like, "Well, wait a minute, am I supposed to have it every 5 years?" And they'd be like, "Yes," and then you can say, "Oh, I've had it this date," and then they can say, "Oh, you know what? Well, we need to schedule it for," and then that you can almost be proactive and, like, make a note to yourself. But I also wanted
Absolutely.
you to talk about the smaller version because
Yes.
this I keep in my, I guess it's my client bag, my everyday bag, or even sometimes when I'm just going out and hanging with friends. And I keep this one with me because I have certain allergies. I have allergies to seafoods, which I'm still kind of working all out, shellfish, iodine. And I want people to know, and
Yeah.
now I'm starting to say, hey, I've got this in my bag just in case. So,
Yes.
share because one of the things when I follow Wendy on social media, and you should too, is I see people, they might be out, just having a good time on a vacation. So, just talk about that as well as the different ways people do use this.
Yeah. So this one, this is a My Body Passport adventure,
Hmm.
and the name Passport was selected because, like well, this is actually 100% passport size, this little one, so you can put it in your bag and carry it around. Um, and it like a passport, you only share it when you need to. You just know where it is. It's important, but you don't just pass it around. You just share it when you need to. So, exactly to your point, Janet, earlier this week, I went on a 2.5 hour mountain bike ride with a new person. And so I had connected with her, but never been out with her. And so at the beginning of the ride, I said, hey, by the way, I have this in my pack. So if anything happens to me, you'll know who to call. If you need a first responder, show them this. They'll know exactly what to do. And she was like, that's a really good idea. And then she said, do you have like seizures? And I said, no, I really have almost nothing, but I'm at an age where they will assume that I'm on blood thinners, or
Mm.
they'll assume I'm on high blood pressure medication, because most people at a certain age that they see are on certain meds. And so I said, I want accuracy. So by having this, they can look and see what supplements is she on? What isn't she on? What meds is she on? What isn't she on? If I had a seizure, does she have a record of seizures? Or is
Mm,
this the first seizure ever? And
mm.
so at the end of the ride, my new friend ended up buying two, one for her and one for her daughter. And she's like, I need to have this on me when I'm out my mountain bike riding. So whether it's mountain bike riding or just traveling, I travel on my own quite a bit and I have this with me. And, there's just a real peace of mind knowing that should either something known or unknown occur, you have the key information that a healthcare provider would need to know to give you the best care.
Mm. I like this. I mean, and that's a good idea. I mean, it has like the vital information that somebody needs. Like you said, who do they contact? What's your preferred hospital? Because we all, just let's face it, those watching and listening, you do have a preferred hospital. I
Yeah.
know what mine is because it's got all my records. So thank you for sharing that. So, Wendy, for somebody either watching or listening who is just like, you know what? I hear Wendy, Dr. Wendy, but right now, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed because not only am I thinking about myself, but I'm also thinking about my mother or my father, and I need to get their stuff organized. What can you share with them to help them kind of ease that stress and anxiety and overwhelm?
Yeah. So, just like the listeners, before I received my first printed book from my printer, I hadn't used it either. I didn't have all my information anywhere specific. And so, what I recommend is you start on the page that makes sense to you. In other words, it's not like a workbook where you start at the beginning and you work your way to the end. There are certain pages that may not apply to you at all, and then you just don't fill them in. But the first thing I did when I had mine is because, again, I was like, where do I start? And then I happened to have a chiropractor appointment coming up. So I started there and I just filled it in. And I started to practice taking the big one with me into the office, writing the notes, what happens next. And the other thing is, it's designed like this is an example
Hmm.
of the allergies. And I don't
Right.
know if your listeners can and read and watchers can see it, but it's checkbox.
Hmm.
So, as much as possible on every page, we've written out all the things. And so the person using it can just check boxes. On the family history, you don't have to write out the family history, you just check the ones that apply. And so we've really worked hard to make it user friendly in normal language, like, not using medical terminology, but more like, what does it mean? What do you do next? What did the doctor say? Or, how do you go about the next step? So,
I like that, Wendy, because I'm just looking at mine. It's my healthcare maintenance page. I have been using my body passport since 2018. And I can just see just at a glance without going into a portal, without anybody knowing any passwords, they can see at a glance. Okay, Janice had normal, normal, normal. The only year or couple of years where I did kind of skip my mammogram, but that was like 2020. Nobody was going to the doctor. And then I had to get, so, but it's nice to really just kind of see just that history. So, Wendy, this is a question I always ask all my guests is how do you stay organized? You are the creator of this product,
mhm.
but you also have your personal life. You've got, your family. You are going mountain bike riding. So
Yeah.
how do you just kind of manage all of that and stay organized?
Well, I struggle, so I'm not an expert organizer. I think that's why one of the reasons why I appreciate that I know one area of my life is very well organized, and so that's very a way that works for me. So I've got that organized. My finances, I've got on a spreadsheet. I've got that organized. So I take pockets and organize them. My mountain bike stuff is in a certain area. And when I come back from a ride, I put it back in that area. So I'm learning. I 100% have areas of my life that still need a systematic approach. But I'm learning that having your things in a place where they belong And if you keep putting them back in that place, then you know where they are.
Mhm.
And then also, if they don't have a place, maybe you don't need them, you know? Either you find a place or you're like, maybe I don't need this. I like to read a lot, so I have lots of books and I'm constantly going through my books here because I just like looking at them, which is fine. If I
Yeah.
like looking at them, okay. But are they here because I think I'm going to get to read them and I'm maybe not? Or, just so I try and ask myself the hard questions, give myself a lot of grace because it's hard to stay organized and listen to people like you, Janet, with tips because those tips, they may not land on a certain day, but then it'll stick in the back of your head. And then someday you're like, oh, wait, I know what I can do here. So I would say for me personally, it's a process. And I really am thankful for the areas where I do feel like, oh, I've got this handled. And honestly, because of my body passport, I have such peace about the medical health care, keeping my records. I'm not worried about if my doctor's computers go down. I don't care. I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
If I'm traveling and they don't have computers, I got it, and everything in between.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. And I don't think sometimes we think about that the system might go down. We always think it's going to be there, but there may be that day when we really need that information when it is not. So, Dr. Wendy, how can people connect with you, but also make sure that they get either the full size one or either they get the adventure?
Yeah, so the products are available two places, either on Amazon.com, just look up My Body Passport, make sure it looks like this, or I have a website, mybodypassport.com. You can go to the contact me page. You can order directly from me. You can email or fill that out. I will get right back to you. And I'm on Instagram, so you at Body Passport, and direct messaging works with that too.
And of course, those of you watching and listening, I will have all of Dr. Wendy's contact information in the show page, description, and notes so you can connect with her directly. Well, Dr. Wendy, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation once again. And of course, those of you watching and listening, just stay tuned because you may see me and Dr. Wendy doing some other stuff in the future. So
Yes.
thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janet.
So, what was your takeaway from my conversation with Dr. Wendy? There were so many things that were just spinning around in my mind. But one of the things I want to leave you with is just start. Whatever it is, just making sure that you keep your health information organized as well as up to date. And of course, getting the My Body Passport will help you do that. But just start. And once you do your information, why not do that person who you may be taking care of, in the future? So until next time, I want you to have a clutter free day, stay organized. And of course, always make sure, get a chance, share this episode with somebody and also listen to the full audio version as well. Take care. Bye.